coaching job in Brooklyn in the shadows of New York City. How would he take to that? Brand new coach, never done it before, brand new coaching staff, and him trying to get used to players and players getting used to him. And then now, Joanna, you throw in the biggest trade of the season. You bring James Harden over, arguably one of the top 3 or 4, 5 talents in the NBA, and then you try to fit him into your organization, try to fit him into your scheme, and vice versa. And now it's working like gangbusters. What a job he's done, him and his coaching staff, to get these guys all together in a short amount of time.
Definitely. And then, of course, he has a lot of help from Mike D'Antoni. Great. He was his coach when he played basketball. And even more, I'm sure, he's also a mentor for him in that aspect.
Yes, it's good to have D'Antoni there, a guy who's been through the trenches, been through where Steve Nash is right now. He's been through the fire, the ups and downs that he's suffered this year, with losses and things happening with COVID and, KD being in and out and Kyrie Irving taking those 7 games off, taking that mental break for 7 games. And then again, you're introducing another major talent into your roster, and you're trying to fit a major talent in and keep him happy and get everybody together. You're trying to mix that bowl and get all those ingredients together to make a really nice dish, a really nice meal. So right now, the Brooklyn Nets are a really good 5-course meal. They taste really good right now.
I like how you put that, 5-course meal. You're going to start making me hungry, Ed.
Hungry for NBA?
That too.
Yeah.
All right. So, there's another news that's been happening the last, day or so, maybe 2, is the Timberwolves, Minnesota Timberwolves. Oh my gosh, Timberwolves. I can't speak anymore. Our head coach, Ryan Saunders, was fired. And right away, the Timberwolves hired the Raptors assistant head coach, Chris Finch. That was a quick turnaround, Ed.
It is. Well, when you're 7-24 and you have the worst record in the NBA, things have to change. And it always starts at the top, doesn't it? Who's the first person to go when teams struggle? Head coaches. So Ryan Saunders was the man on the chopping block. He had to go because the Minnesota Timberwolves ownership is saying, okay, we're 17 games under 500. We almost came back the other night on Sunday night against the Knicks, but they were down big and they came back and lost, but still they lost. They've won 7 games this year. They're the worst team in the NBA. So things have to change. They can't stay that way the entire season without ownership making any changes. And that's what the Timberwolves decided to do.
Isn't it also gutsy of the Timberwolves to go after the head coach for the Raptors? The Raptors, we know where they were not too long ago in the NBA and the finals and all of that good stuff. And they're still a good team overall, but just going after, this team and their assistant head coach.
Evidently, the Raptors were okay with it. They let Finch go. They let him go and sign on with the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's basketball. That's business. Sometimes you have to make moves like that. And Chris Finch comes over and he becomes the head coach. Just so many unknowns, so many uncertain things. And when your basketball team is not playing up to the level where you want it to be, things have to change and guys have to be replaced. Whether it's players or head coaches. In this instance, Ryan Saunders was replaced and Finch comes in and, well, let's see what happens with him. And they've been struggling because Karl Anthony Towns hasn't been there for a good majority of the season. He's been dealing with some fallout from COVID-19 for his situation. So he hasn't been there a good majority of the season, but he's come back and he's played well, but they're not a really good basketball team as evidenced by their record.
Yeah. So they decided to just go ahead and, that dagger in.
Cut the ties. Yes.
And let's just do it now instead of having to wait for the season or before anything more happens. So this is just the start of the head coach. And we typically, when we see a new head coach, we also see new faces elsewhere. So I haven't heard of any other changes aside from the head coach position, but I'm sure that those are to follow and how much more of an effect that's going to have on the Timberwolves organization.
Oh, yes. And what it does is it gives the Timberwolves a chance to get used to Fitch and for Finch, and Finch get used to the Timberwolves. And now they've got 41 games left to get used to each other. And the Timberwolves can feel out Finch and see if he's the right fit moving forward as their head coach, and vice versa. If Finch is feeling the Timberwolves, and if he actually wants to continue on once the season is over as their head coach. So it gives time for everybody to get a feel for each other and see if this is going to be the right fit moving forward for the Timberwolves.
Yeah. Definitely. So wishing nothing but the best for Finch as the new head coach for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And we know it's not an easy hat to wear, not, at all. But do wish him the best of luck in this new role and see how the Timberwolves turn this around, and hopefully that they do, and can get more wins than losses going forward.
A lot of assistant coaches want to be head coaches, and sometimes they get it in unfortunate situations like this, right, Joanna? Sometimes it just doesn't get handed to you. It just comes to you in crazy ways, and this is how you inherit a head coaching job.
Yeah.
But good for him.
He has a lot to work through and a lot of challenges, of course, but nonetheless, nothing but the best for him.
Yes, he's got a tough hill to climb, but good for him. He's got the position, and let's see if he can work it out.
Yes, indeed. Ready to talk some boxing, Ed?
Yeah, we got about we're on our really back half, about 12 more minutes left. Let's talk some boxing.
Boxing, yes. Hey, did that knockout from this weekend get to you, Ed?
Yeah, it got to me too. That Valdez punch got me too.
Yeah, all kidding aside, it was a great fight, and a fight that I haven't seen like this in some time. And one of my brothers and I were actually, chatting back and forth throughout the fight, watching. He was watching it at his home and me at my home, and it's something I haven't seen in a while. It's because even you do see the big fights and like Canelo or Triple G or whatnot. Yes, they can also be good fights, but they haven't, at least for me, in my opinion, they haven't been something as far as this Valdez and Bill Shirt. I cannot pronounce for the life of me his last name. I'm so sorry, I butchered that up, but that was a round for round, punch by punch type of fight. So this brings me back to all this other fights seeing growing up, and what boxing really truly was and should be. But you just watching the fight. Valdez put some mean power onto Belcher. So and he comes, it ends in the 10th round. Valdez wins the WBC junior weight title. But he, like what you say, floors his opponent. And once he hits that punch for that knockout, when it was a literal knockout, as soon as I heard that, I felt bad for the guy. I was like, I knew that was it, and that guy was lights out. Yes. Of course, Valdez does celebrate, but then it does come to a somber silence, and because the guy, Bill Shirt, he does not move. He is not moving for a good 2 minutes in total, unconscious. If you watch the fight, you would see that Valdez put some major power punches and put some major hits on his opponent.
He did. Mm-hmm.
And they were not anything to kid with. He literally made his legs jello. He gave those power punches, those uppercuts, those hits to the head, those hits or blows to the head, I should actually say. And he knocked him down a couple of times before that knockout, couple good knockouts. And where I think that one knockout before or knockdown before the actual knockout, when they call the fight, at that point, the one before, that's where I believe it should have stopped. And if at the latest before that, end punch, or even before that, because you can see Belcher just not in it. He is struggling. His eye coordination, you can hear the referee throughout the fight saying, you need to give me more, that he needs to move and he needs to punch. Even his corner was to a point to where that they ask him, do I need to call the fight? Do you want me to pretty much throw in the towel? Like, are you done? Like, if there's so much questioning of this throughout the fight, whether it's your corner or you're hearing this from the referee, or you're seeing any type of movement to where that boxer is not is not responding to the way he should be, and his balance is off, end the fight. I don't think that it had to go on for as long as it did and get to where it got to be honest.
Yeah, because it got to a dangerous situation. Just looking at the numbers, Valdez landed 149 punches. Joanna, 103 of those were power punches. Yeah, like the fourth round knockout, and then when he got knocked down before the knockout in the 10th round, you're just like, well, if you were his corner, would you have thrown the towel in? I think I might have, just for the sake of the health of my boxer. I'm like, yes. Okay, just live to see another day. There will be other fights, but you can't risk the health of your boxer just because you think he can finish a fight. If you think he's on the ropes and he's in dangerous territory, you throw the belt, you throw the towel in, and you'll argue with him afterwards after he gets out the hospital. But the utmost safety and health of your boxer has to be the main concern.
Yeah, and I haven't seen a fight like this in a while. Just in the power of the fight that it was overall a good fight. But not only that, but into the way that it came to an end, and how dangerous of a fight it came to be.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And there's been other boxing matches that I've seen or I've heard of other boxers, because there's so much boxing that's out there. But to where it comes to a point to where actually a boxer ends up, unfortunately, killing his opponent, as much as I hate to say it, because of a knockout like that, a blow to the head, and doesn't survive. And it shouldn't come to that point. Unfortunately, there are those situations where that does happen. And sometimes you just don't foresee it, or there's no way that you will know. But in this case, like when I saw Belcher go down, my heart dropped to the floor, Ed. And I was just praying that this guy would wake up. And all I was looking for is he breathing?
Yes.
He was down because of how unresponsive he was.
Yes. When he hit him just flush on his face, I mean, that was about as perfect a knockout as you'll ever see. That'll be the knockout of the year. But that's the first thing I thought when he hit the ground. I'm like, oh my gosh, is he going to be okay? And again, they took him to the hospital after the fight and just to do a CT scan and make sure his brain is okay and he didn't suffer any effects from that knockout. But my gosh, was that a great punch?
It was, but I think this isn't the only fight. There's been other fights in other situations, even recently, even over the last year or two that I've seen. And it just gets to a point to where it goes too far, or it should be called sooner. And because now you're in this unfortunate situation, and now it's affecting your, that athlete's health. And at the same time, to what, if your corner isn't calling the fight, and the boxer is actually saying, no, I can go. But it's also on your corner's responsibility, one, if you're seeing that, but also if you're also trusting the referee will make the right call.
Because of course a boxer will never say, I'm tapping out, I'm done. They're warriors. They're going to fight until their dying breath. Yeah, it's scary when you see a guy take a pounding like that and you just feel for him as a human being. It's like, my gosh, I know you're the best at your profession, at the boxing profession, but you're right. There is a point where somebody has to stop this thing and say no. If the referee's got to jump in and say no, because this guy cannot continue to take a pounding like this and not be affected physically and mentally.
Yeah. And then these are just so young, such young kids too. So young, in their 20s, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. It's babies.
Yeah, and they still have so much ahead, and you know, I've heard of